Hey, good day to you. This is Stan Pierchoski with Pierchoski Estate Law, and this is the Ask Stan show every Thursday at 12 noon, where I answer all your estate planning questions submitted throughout the week. If you have a question about wills, trusts, Medicaid pre-planning, Medicaid crisis planning, the nursing home, or just estate planning in general, just send them to me here on Facebook or call me at 363-7222 or email me at pierchoskiestatelaw@gmail.com. I'll answer them live on WKSR Radio, and we post them here on the Ask Stan show every Thursday. So, let's get right to it.
Good morning, team. What's going on, everybody? It's the Jinx Man filling in for Butch here on Classic KSR. It's the bonus hour, and every Thursday, I guess it's every Thursday if I'm not mistaken, we have a special guest in the studio, Mr. Stan Pierchoski with Pierchoski Estate Law. So, hey, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Jinx. How are you?
Man, I'm good, brother. It's been a while since I've seen you, but it's good to see you again.
Yeah. You filled in once before. And,
yeah.
We were here and we had a good time. I think we were talking about pet trust back then. If you remember.
Did. We sure did. Yeah, I learned a lot. I always learn when I'm around you, Stan.
Wanted to wish Butch happy birthday. I know he's probably not listening, but if he is, happy birthday.
I'm sure he's sitting somewhere in the Bahamas listening right now online.
That's a pretty powerful signal. So, yeah. No, it's good to be here. We were talking about the sunshine maybe coming out this weekend, which it's supposed to. So the weekend's going to be great. Between now and then, maybe not so much, but we'll see.
Yeah, it looks like it's shaping up to be a beautiful Memorial Day weekend and a lot of things going on around the area. So hopefully people can get out and enjoy it.
Yeah. But listen, at the end of my segment, I want to make sure you remind me to talk about what's going on at the theater, because we've got some stuff happening that I need to touch on. But what I want to talk about today, the last couple of weeks I've been sort of doing a little progressive education on what we do at Pierchoski Estate Law. We talked about what a will does, and then we talked about what a trust does. And now I'm moving into a very popular area that people ask me about all the time, and that is long-term care. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, the reason I talk about long-term care is the most popular question that I get at all my seminars and just about every meeting. Somebody will ask me the question in one form or another that goes something like this: how do I keep the nursing home from getting all my stuff?
Okay? I know the question. Yeah.
And surprisingly, for most people, there is an answer. There's a solution to this. Mm-hmm. There is a planning technique that we can use. Of course, there's two kinds of planning. There's when you talk about what we call Medicaid planning, there's two types. One's called pre-planning, and pre-planning I define as if you're not in the nursing home and you're not really heading there soon.
Sure.
Crisis planning is when you come to me and say, hey, my wife is in the nursing home, what can I do? I mean, somebody's already there, or knocking on the door, so to speak. So mostly what we talk about is the pre-planning, but we do crisis planning, but that usually doesn't surface until somebody's actually in the home.
Yeah.
So, but when you talk about pre-planning, there is a way to protect your assets, and if you do it with a little time built in, we can protect virtually 100% of what you own.
Yeah.
So when we talk about long-term care, it's like why should we? It's age dependent. In your 30s or 40s, it's always we'll take care of that later.
Yeah.
When you get your 50s and 60s, you start thinking about that a little bit more.
Right.
Now, so why would you even protect it against it? Well, as we sit here today, neither of us know if we're going to end up in long-term care or not.
Yeah.
So, but if you go to statistics, and if you Google it, you'll get the same ones. They're pretty sobering. 70% of Americans 65 years or older will require some form of long-term care. And that's a national statistic. So think of that. 7 out of 10 of us are going to require some kind of care. 10 care has 3 choices levels. There are different levels of care, but it's considered long-term care. Mm-hmm. And the statistic that always keeps me up in the middle of the night is that 7 out of 10 of those folks that go into long-term care will become impoverished within 1 year. Wow. Now that's a scary thought when you think about it. So that's the reason why we plan, because we don't know. We could have a stroke and be gone, or we could have a stroke and be paralyzed and be there. You just don't know. I always say I'm in the what if business. So we what if those things, and if that happens to you, you're dealing with a discriminatory healthcare system. If that happens to us, the 10 Care Act will come and clean us out, and what we call the Estate Recovery Act.
Yeah.
But if I use this example in my seminars, if you have a brain tumor, a cancerous brain tumor, Medicare will pay every bit of that. Okay, and they'll do chemo, they'll do radiation, they'll do surgery, they'll pay $500,000 for that.
Yeah.
And they won't come and clean you out after you pass away. But if you are unfortunate enough to get a disease that requires long-term care, like it's not a brain tumor, but it's called plaques and tangles, which is dementia.
Yeah.
Alzheimer's. If you get that, there's no medical cure for that. We can't remove it. We can't nuke it. We can't chemo it. The only solution to that is long-term care. And the only thing that pays long-term care is Medicaid, which in Tennessee's version of Medicaid is TennCare.
Yeah.
And so what happens then is if you get that disease, they will pay for you to be in the nursing home once you qualify, but afterwards, after you pass away, they will come around and exercise the Estate Recovery Act. And they will hold their hand out for the tune of the cost of the care that they paid for. And it's a priority claim ahead of all your heirs. So if you leave your house and your business and your bank accounts and everything to your children, and you rack up a bill with them, and they'll come around at Estate Recovery after you pass away with a priority claim because they're the government. So they get paid first.
They're gonna get theirs.
That's how they get. That's how they get the house, and that's how they get everything you own.
Yeah.
Because now this next thing we just talked about the statistics about being there. Let's talk about the cost of being there. The cost of being there. I have a chart I put up, but if you're in the nursing home around here, it is anywhere from $7,000 to $8,000 a month. Okay,
wow. So
just do the math and see how rapidly an estate can be exhausted at that rate. So it's exorbitantly expensive. Some of the lower levels are less expensive, like the assisted living or the choices level 2. Sort of, they're a little bit less, but still, I'd say that can kind of slow the bleeding a little bit. But if you're in a full-scale facility, it's exorbitantly expensive, and it's only going up because those numbers are kind of pre-COVID. Because I'm just knowing how businesses work. There's going to be lots of procedures and things they have to implement now because of the last year.
Sure.
And just have to pass all those.
Everything's going to go up.
And it's the only way to do it for them to stay in business. So it's going to go up. It's going to get more, and it's just. I mean, it can wipe most folks out. It's like $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
The average stay is 3 to 5 years, depending on whether you're male, female, what puts you in. And the biggest problem with like dementia or Alzheimer's is once you have to have help with some of the activities of daily life and qualify for long-term care.
Yeah.
It's a mental issue. It's not a physical issue. So people with Alzheimer's, live a long time simply because their bodies are usually pretty good. The mental thing is what makes it difficult for them that they require care. So their lifespan in the long-term care is longer than somebody that may go there because they have Parkinson's.
Sure.
Parkinson's is degenerative, but it usually ends up being fatal.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So we need to think. If you hadn't thought about long-term care, I mean, you really ought to. Especially if you're between 50 and 65. And the reason I picked that age group is because if you're between 30 and 50, you say, no, I'm not going to worry about that. I'll deal with that later. I get that. I understand.
Yeah.
But between 50 and 65, you've pretty much accumulated a nest egg that you want to protect. And so you start thinking about this sort of thing. And the reason I like that age group is because at that point, your health is usually pretty good. And when we deal with the Medicaid and asset protections, we have to have a certain amount of time to deal with it. There's a time frame. A lot of people refer to it, they call it the 5-year look back. That's as good a name as any, and I discuss that a lot in my seminars. But if you protect assets, you usually have to wait 5 years before they're completely free and clear from the estate recovery.
Okay.
That's not entirely true. There's lots we can do if we fall short of that, but let's just use that as the standard. So, if you do it between 50 and 65 or 70, I mean, the health thing in the 5 years is pretty much in the bag. I mean, of course, you can always have a stroke or an accident.
Sure.
But, if you wait till later, I mean, it's just more of a wait and see approach. If you're already 80, 85 and you're feeling you have some issues, I mean, we can still do all this. We just don't know how, whether we can stay out of the nursing home for that period of time or not. It just depends.
Let me ask this, Dan, if
Sure.
I can, real quick. So, all right, so I was on the insurance side of things at one time, and that was one question I got a lot of times was, how in the world am I ever supposed to, we didn't sell long-term care insurance. So you, with your firm, how are you going to help someone who has it? I mean, what are you going to do? What's the process?
Well, I mean, you bring up long-term care insurance, and there is such a thing. It's not like it used to be.
Sure.
It used to be over 100 companies that sold that. Now there's a dozen.
Yes,
and,
you're right.
And it pays maybe as much as 65%. So it helps a lot. But the problem is only about 10% of people have long-term care insurance.
That's right.
Because it's very expensive and it's very age and health dependent. In other words, if you got an issue, they won't give it to you. If you're over a certain age, they just won't insure you.
That's right.
So that's a way to help pay for it. But the way we do it, the pre-planning, is we put it in a trust. It's an irrevocable trust. Last week I talked about the revocable living trust. It's probate avoidance.
Yeah.
But But the difference between a revocable living trust and our irrevocable asset protection trust is when you have a revocable living trust, you have complete control over all the property that's in that trust.
Okay.
You're all three parties to the agreement. You're the trustor, the trust maker, the trustee, the person that controls the property, and you're also the beneficiary. So when you have complete control over your property, you don't get creditor protection. Okay, that's just. But if you want creditor protection, you have to give up some control of the property. And that's the fundamental nature of property law.
Yeah.
And I always tell folks to remember this definition. If you can get at an asset, your creditors can get at it. So if you stop at the bank after the show and take out $100, I mean, you can get to your bank account. Well, somebody has a judgment against you, they can effect that judgment and levy that account and get paid. And that's rightfully so for a valid creditor. They should be able to reach your assets. So the irrevocable trust creates a situation where we limit our access to the property. Now, it's actually designed to have two levels of indirect access to the property. So even though we put it in this type of a trust, I get a lot of folks who say, I'm a control freak, I don't like putting something in here that I don't have access to. Well, big difference between access and control. Access means you just can't cash it out and spend it.
Yeah.
Control means you can sell it. If it's a house, you can sell it, you can buy a new house, you can invest it in something, you can put it in gold bars, you can buy cannabis stocks if you want. I mean, you can do whatever you want with the property, have tremendous control over it. You just can't take it out and realize it and spend it.
Okay.
If the principal stays into the trust, then it's what we call asset protection. All your it's creditor proof. No creditors can get at it.
Okay.
And if we can keep it there for 5 years, then Medicaid can't get at it either. So it works very nice, but we got to have that time frame to build something into it, because thus the word planning. When we talk about estate planning or elder law planning, we don't like I mean, it's hard to do at the 11th hour. You know?
Yeah.
And next week I may talk about the other kind of planning called crisis planning. That is when we're at the 11th hour. Somebody's already in the nursing home. What can we do? We're getting these $8,000 a month bills. So surprisingly enough, there's a lot we can still do. Now, we may not be able to protect 100% of it. If you're a husband and wife, we can get close to 100%, because I can shift income and resources from the institutionalized spouse to the healthy spouse. So there's a lot we can do if you're husband and wife. If you're single, we're down in anywhere from 50 to 70% of what I can salvage, but we're going to lose some of it in that case. Because when you're single and in crises, that's probably one of the hardest things to plan for. But there's still lots we can do versus doing nothing and having everything you own exposed and at risk. So
look, folks, if you want to hear a song, you want to hear a request, you call me and I'll play it for you. If you want to cook a turnip ring, call me and I'll tell you how. If you want to deal with this kind of issue right here that I have no clue about, Pierchoski Law Firm, man. I'm telling you, y'all, estate law, y'all, you know what you're doing, and you've been doing this for a long time, and you do it every day.
We do. That's all we do is estate planning and elder law planning.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So, hey, listen, I said at the beginning I needed to say something about the theater, if I still got a minute.
You do. Go ahead, bro.
We just started. Miss Tammy was on the show last week. She came and told us about the theater. We're back in business now. We actually had our first performance about a month ago. It was called Gatsby, which was a dinner murder theater.
Okay.
Now, it's not like the one you might be thinking of where you sit there and eat dinner and watch performers that kind of roam around in the house doing this. Everybody that shows up for dinner actually participates in this. You're actually given a role as you come in, and our MC actually sort of screens people and says, do you want an involved role or kind of a shy, subtle role? So you can pick your poison, so to speak. So, if you're outgoing, you want to be, a little more of a part, there's available for you. If you just kind of want to be low key and, you can get that too. But it's a great meal. We cater the meal. It's like a 3-course meal, and it's staged in the 1920s. So people show up.
So you can show up dressed up.
A lot of people dress up. Well, most people dress up.
So I wouldn't do it, but my wife could wear her flapper dress if she wanted to.
Yeah. I told last week we download these sheets of the lingo that's used in the 20s. I always tell Butch, you got a kick out of one of my favorite things that it's like. I was reading the list of what things are.
Yeah.
Like one said sob sister. A sob sister is a female reporter,
A sob sister.
Yeah, and when is everything okay? It's Jake. Everything's Jake. And there was one called fire extinguisher. I thought, what the heck is a fire extinguisher?
Yeah.
It's a chaperone.
Really?
Which is interesting.
Makes sense.
Whole list of that. You can just Google that and you can come and if you want to tell somebody to quit lying, you say keep your lies on the other side of your pearly whites.
Oh, really?
It's kind of cumbersome to say.
Yeah.
Just say stop lying. Right?
Just stop lying.
But anyway, it's a lot of fun when you do that. People, that's why they talk to each other, because you're giving clues to share with the guests and stuff. So anyway, we're doing that again Friday and Saturday, next Friday and Saturday, which I think is the 4th and 5th.
Yeah.
And just call my office. My phone is still the box office for the theater, 363-7222. And RSVP for the list. I think they're going to maybe cutting that off by tomorrow or shortly thereafter. Because they have to have a head count for the dinner.
For the bill.
And the other thing I wanted to mention real quick was the summer camp for the kids called Under the Sea this year. They're still taking registrations for that. So call and fill out the application, and the kids can go to that. We got a tremendous turnout for that. They're real excited because we're finally back in business. We've been shut down for a year, being a theater. But we're back. We're back out. We still do all the. We still do all the. If you're comfortable, you want to wear a mask or something like that. We get spread people apart. We still do that, make people comfortable. But we're back in business. Doors are open. And
that's great, man.
So, anyway, if you want to talk to me about estate planning or anything, have any questions, or call about the theater, just call my office on the square, which is 363-7222, and we'll take care of you.
Man, awesome, brother. It's always good to see you, and looking forward to hear more about that theater too. And keep us up to date too, and let us know we can help spread the word about that. That'd be great.
I will. Thank you.
All right, folks. It's right here. We're coming back.